I was published in national dailies. I adjudicated at universities like Oxford, Harvard, Columbia, Yale. I trained the Indian debating team to represent the country at the national and international levels.
So hello everyone, today we have Shorya here. He is someone who just spent 1 hour on his application to apply to Canada. In that 1 hour of effort, he was able to get not just in University of British Columbia, Canada, plus get 50% scholarship as well. So we will be getting to learn about his strategies, how he was able to make an application that fast, and his extracurriculars and overall profile. So hi Shorya, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Anur. Firstly, thank you so much for having me here. So, hi everyone. My name is Shorya, and I just completed my first year at the University of British Columbia. I am still an undecided major, but I am planning to major either in neuroscience or psychology. And I am from the Delhi NCR, and I studied in a CBSE board school. And yes, that's pretty much about me.
Brilliant. So to share some background, I want to highlight that Shorya is exceptionally good in English. His piece of writing, we will look at his essay, his whole profile, but I want to give some background that how he got really good in English and exceptionally great in writing, that it seems like that he did not write his own essay. It seems like someone like, a Nobel Prize winner in English with fanciest words in English wrote it. So can you please share how you got that great in English, especially in writing?
Yeah, so basically my entire, I know we'll be talking about it further, but my entire college profile was built around public speaking, debating. So when I was in 8th grade, I started public speaking and debating, and sort of developed my entire college profile around it as to how I was published in national dailies. I adjudicated at universities like Oxford, Harvard, Columbia, Yale. I trained the Indian debating team to represent the country at the national and international levels. So given that I was so much into public speaking, oration and everything, and I had to write scripts for the people I was training in debate. So that's how I sort of brushed onto my verbal skills and my writing skills in particular. And also I am a big bibliophile. If someone asks me what I do in my free time, you'll probably catch me reading a book. So that's how I think I brushed on my verbal skills a lot.
Name 3 books that has impacted you the most in terms of your skills.
The power of your subconscious mind, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and definitely The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because the Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde depicts split personality disorder. And given that I am a student who is interested in neuroscience and psychology, it's definitely one of my favorite books.
Wow. Now let's talk about your major. So what are you studying at UBC? What are you planning to, even though you're undecided? So when you made your application, you showed passion towards one particular interest. At least that's what I can, when you make your essay, when you make your profile, you show passion towards one particular major. What was that major that you showed interest towards?
Yes, while I was initially applying, given that I applied undecided everywhere, but the one major or one subject I showed passion towards was psychology. So while entering college, I was sort of maybe an anticipated psychology major from the admission counselor's perspective, but then again, it was an undecided application and I still am undecided. But to answer your question, it was psychology.
Nice. And now let's get into your application for Canada. So he told me before this call that Canada was just his backup. He applied to all the US schools. So Canada was just an effort to use some of the US application and just quickly apply. So can you tell me that even though it was a backup, how it became your first, or how it became the school you chose in the end?
Yes. So UBC, as Harnoor said, it was always a backup for me. And perhaps UBC was the only Canadian university I applied to. And I would sort of call it destiny that I applied to 40 plus US universities and only one Canadian university. And I actually ended up going to that one Canadian university and not to the US universities. So one of the biggest reasons was the scholarship, as Harnoor mentioned before. I am an IMES, which is the International Major Entrance Scholarship, plus the OIS, which is the Outstanding International Student Scholarship recipient. It covers more than 50% of my tuition. So financial aspect was definitely one aspect which made UBC higher on my list than other US universities I got into. And the country laws were also one consideration I made. For instance, right now, I am interning under a psychiatrist. I work outside college, right? I am able to build my CV in very dynamic ways, working outside college, right? However, had I attended the US, I think for international students, you can only work on campus and you cannot work outside campus. So that dynamic CV development would not have been possible in the United States, even though if I were in a top university, but it is being possible at UBC, which is the top Canadian university, plus the dynamic CV development. So that's why I thought UBC was sort of checking all the marks for me. So it became my house for the next 4 years or 5 years.
That is a wonderful decision. Like getting an opportunity to work outside campus is really, really important because sometimes the on-campus research positions are not as fulfilling. I remember I went to Georgia State and I had Georgia Tech right next to my campus within 2 miles. And even if I wanted to get an opportunity there, I couldn't because it was written that only permanent residents or only US citizens can apply. And these restrictions did affect me in terms of getting more research opportunities that did not affect you. That's a wonderful answer. Now let's get into your application. Can you please share the top extracurriculars that helped you getting a scholarship in Canada and also getting into prestigious university like University of Chicago and then UC Berkeley and all of those UCs. So can you please share on that?
Yes. So as I mentioned that my college profile was built around debating. So I did one of the most prestigious Model UN conferences of India. I had Bollywood celebrities as chief guests. And I also had Meghna Mishra, who is a Bollywood playback singer. And I'm sure you all have watched that Bollywood movie of Amir Khan. It's called Secret Superstar. She was the singer of all the songs of Secret Superstar movie. So all these Bollywood celebrities and this singer, they all came to, it was an E Model UN. It was online. All of them joined the conference to sort of, bolster the spirit of public speaking. All of them shared there. So for instance, I remember one of the actors was on the set. So the actors showed all the debaters and Model UN, so all the children who were participating, how shooting takes place in real life. And then Meghna Mishra, she sang songs for all of us. So that was one thing that was in my profile. It was like very good Model UN that was organized. I did a research with University of Delhi. I did a research with one of the professors. So my research was so I am one of those people who applied during the COVID days. So my research paper is entitled "The Effect of COVID-19 Vaccination on the Indian Population," and it is published in the Journal of Medical Virology. And this research also had support of the Indian Council of Medical Research. So I was paired up with the ICMR, and that is something that was really impactful in my profile. I also wrote a book about disability, mental health. So I did that. And I also ran a page about psychology, neuroscience. That was one thing. And I think my page has like 30 or 50K followers by now. So it was on growth that time. But my Common App essay and my Common App essay and all the other things were debating as to how I have adjudicated at IIT. I have also adjudicated at IIT Delhi, IIT Mumbai. All these IITs invited me to judge their debating competitions. I was published in national dailies. And one of my other extracurriculars was I was a national all-rounder. I was given 18 medals and 17 trophies, something like that, for being the overall national all-rounder of India. And I was also a national chess player. So that was pretty much about my profile, like the main things that are coming to my mind right now.
That is brilliant. And in terms of building these extracurricular profile, when did you start? Like, I believe that you didn't particularly wanted to collect these extracurriculars. Your goal was to just use your passion and to compete, and that resulted in these extracurriculars. But when did you start? Like in terms of like 8th standard, you started with debate.
Yeah, exactly. So 8th standard. So basically, I was like I still am actually a pretty introverted kid. But 8th standard, I was really, really introverted. I could not speak a word in English without stammering, right? And I always used to like sit in that one shabby corner of the class, just minding my own business. And then so I sort of like, our school provided an opportunity to join a Model UN conference. And like my teachers were like, we know you can do it. But I was like, okay, let me just like try, right? And I really liked that experience. So slowly and steadily, I developed those skills and it sort of resulted in being the spike of my college application. So yeah, you're right. Like this was not the end goal, but then in my application, I really demonstrated a passion for public speaking and debating, and I think it sort of worked.
Wow. And in terms of reaching to IITs to get you judged their debate competitions, so I believe they sort of got to know about you through LinkedIn or somehow with your page with 50,000 followers. So how did you start to publicize your work to reach to them?
Yeah, so like it was like basically through networking, not necessarily on LinkedIn, even though I agree that LinkedIn is a very really good platform. And I recently started developing my base on over LinkedIn. But I personally did not use LinkedIn that much when I was in high school. And I really regret that because I know had I used that, my profile could have been much more better. So the reason how these I developed all this base was like as I mentioned, I used to train kids, right? And I used to debate myself. For instance, I went to this IIT debate and I actually ended up winning it, right? So the next time, so I got on call with one of the professors, right? They sort of asked me about my debating journey, like the same thing I'm telling you right now, 8th class, everything, right? So they knew that I had a good experience of training kids, of debating in Harvard, Oxford, or Doxbridge, these top World School Debating Championship, the Prague Debating League. So they knew that I had a good debating base. And then they're like, we'd like to have you as an adjudicator in our next tournament. Then I did it at one IIT, and all these IITs are sort of interconnected with each other. First, I did it at IIT Delhi, then IIT Kanpur, then IIT Mumbai. So sort of like that.
Nice. That's very inspiring to know. And now finally, let's talk about your essay. Can you please share your essay? And I would love to ask you some questions, how you actually planned your essay from the beginning till the end that helped you in getting to these top schools.
For sure. So if you just allow, I'll screen share my UChicago essay. Yeah, so this is my UChicago essay. And as like University of Chicago is probably known for one of the most weirdest college supplemental essay prompts. And these prompts actually keep on changing every year. So the prompt which you see on your screen right now is not available for perhaps like any cycle you might be applying for, because I think this prompt was only for the class of 2026, right? They might have changed this was not the only prompt. There were like 5 more, but I chose this one. So the prompt is, what if the moon were made of cheese or Neptune made of soap? Pick a celestial object, reimagine its material composition, and explore the implications. Feel free to explore the realms of physics, philosophy, fantasy. The sky is the limit. That's literally the essay prompt.
Wow, it's very vague, and it also gives you freedom to talk about anything you want to. But in terms of this essay and comparing it with your UBC Vancouver, Canada essay, so you also picked a lot of paragraphs from this essay and used it for the application. So you can actually understand that this is the essay that helped him in getting scholarship in Canada as well. Awesome.
Right.
So, looking at the prompt, what was the first thing that came into your mind? Which story you wanted it to connect with? Because your goal was to show your passion towards debate, your passion towards speaking skills. So how did you connect the dots in the prompt with your passion?
Right. So like this was perhaps like the most interesting prompt I had out of the other 5. Like the other prompts I remember were, what is so simple about a pie? Like that was literally like a prompt, and I really didn't know how I would write like 2 pages on that. And this is something I thought that I can write something on. And my goal here was not to connect it to my passion, because as I mentioned that my common application essay was related to my passion, right? So I did not like really want to have like a redundancy in my application. So I had to like really think how I can make this essay really interesting. So like I thought for like a week, and then I was like, let me make a planet very like alcoholic in nature. But then alcohol is something like that is deemed as very unacceptable or something bad in the society we dwell in. But I sort of connected alcohol to something really good, and as to how it would help Earth in the future. So that is actually the story of this essay. It in general, it demonstrates my passion, or it in general is it's like synonymous to my passion for making the world a better place in terms for all people to live. So that is the motivation behind this essay.
So highlight is when you were thinking about it, you thought about your passion, plus you connected with how to make world a better place to show impact. And then once you planned it out, if you have to break this essay into bullet points, can you first do that, and then we can go through it?
Yeah, it's like history, current, and then future. Like, so it's first like history, alcohol history, then it's like Shorya plus current, and then it's like Shorya plus future. So that's like covering the essay in like bullet points.
Brilliant. So let's go through the intro. So if you allow, I can read and I can ask you questions.
For sure.
So, fact, under the heavy influence of opium, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, one of the stalwarts of English Romanticism, wrote the literary pieces still marveled by generations to come. The rich expanses of Xanadu, I might be pronouncing it wrong,
It's okay.
yeah, would have been camouflaged behind the prosaic if not for the drug that ignited the poet's senses with enlivened imagery. Okay, got it. So this paragraph shows the negative side on alcohol.
Yes.
Got it.
I basically like in this paragraph, I'm trying to like show the paradoxical relationship. I first like mention like great historical names who have been like really like people who like really drank a lot every day, but still they're like such good names in our history and like really adore these people for their love, right? So that was the motivation. Like I began the essay by sort of like showing the paradoxical relationship between alcohol and these like great human beings that existed on the planet, while simultaneously showing the reader that the person who is writing this essay is like a really well-read person. And like, so for instance, if you like read the last line, feel free to explore the realms of physics, philosophy, fantasy, the sky is the limit. So I sort of like started the essay right from the last line of the prompt. I am exploring the realms of philosophy, history, and sort of developing the base, while simultaneously showing the reader that the person who wrote this essay is a well-read person and knows what is being written on. And like the last line, I believe if Saturn were a barrel of beer, it would be the reason of unprecedented cheer among mankind, right? So it sort of like develops a curiosity in the person who is reading the essay. How can a Saturn, like why being Saturn a barrel of beer will be very precedent to like, will be like a very happy thing for the mankind. Like alcohol is bad, right? So I sort of like try to think from the perspective of the person who is reading it, because college admissions officers have to like read a lot of essays every day, right? So my goal here was to stick the reader onto the essay, because I think in my personal opinion, by opening the essay like this, I can like make the person further read it. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Because from the beginning, it started with the specific details, which shows that you are actually a good reader. You are like well-read person, and then continues building up on the history. Now, can we move on with the next paragraph?
Yeah.
Sure.
This is the next paragraph. As a layman till torment and haunt us.
Got it. So now this paragraph shares your journey towards relocating to Mars. If you had to relocate to Mars, what are the different challenges you will face, and how your present plus Shorya, as you told me, could have been imagined that way?
Yeah.
And what was your goal in this paragraph?
Sort of convince the reader that just like relocating. So basically, in this essay, I do not propose relocation to Saturn, right? I do not propose that the mankind should go to Saturn. I'm just proposing that the mankind should go to Saturn in order to just like party, drink beer, and come back. So in this second paragraph, I was sort of, now I'm going towards like the main essay prompt, that is the reimagining the celestial composition. Like I'm sort of starting to build that. My goal here was to sort of disembark traditional notions of relocating to other planets, because eventually, as I say, that concerns such as lack of employment opportunities, corruption, gender discrimination, poverty, they'll not be obliterated overnight in a different cosmic space, right? All these concerns which humanity or mankind still face, they just won't vanish if you sort of go to Mars, right? However, in the subsequent paragraph, I propose that if you like just go to Saturn to drink, all these problems will not be gone, but they can just be forgotten for a moment. So forgetting the problems for a moment is better than not being like able to vanish forever. So that's like, I'm sort of like building my proposal of Saturn being a barrel of beer here.
Because when you connected the story with alcohol, you first said that it is bad, but still, even people who consume alcohol can be successful. So
Yeah, actually, in general, I think that it's a pretty risky essay to write. But then it's like those pretty risky essays that sort of end up into good things because yeah, like as a college student, I'm writing my main college essay. Like UChicago places a lot of emphasis on their supplemental essays, right? And I'm writing it about alcohol, beer. So it is actually a pretty risky essay to write, but yeah, it worked out.
wow, mind blowing. And can we move with the last paragraph? I think the third paragraph. I believe.
Yeah, it's like the second last paragraph.
Sure. So the rings of Saturn could metamorph into the glizzy discord. Okay, I think these words are too fancy for me. If you had to break this paragraph, how would you break it down? How it connects and evolves with the story?
Yeah, it's basically, as I mentioned, so basically this is the main paragraph that proposes why we should go to Saturn to just like drink and come back. So as I say that as the ambience would resonate with the laughter of the old and the young, more and more people are looking for an escape would gravitate towards Saturn, making it a home for those who are tired, who tried but tried in vain. So basically, this paragraph, I'm sort of building a proposal towards Saturn as to why you humans, you should go to Saturn to drink, but not to relocate.
It shows that it's kind of more risky because you're recommending people to drink and come back and not to relocate.
But then the last paragraph shows, what is going to happen on Earth. Meanwhile, the people are gone drinking on Saturn. So the last paragraph sort of shows that contrast as well. So it closes up very well. And like in this third paragraph, if you read the last line, melodies of diverse strains would converge and the streams of creativity would sparkle with the brilliance of the frothy cups, intoxicating the senses with kaleidoscopic hues. So it's again like just like a description of what's going to happen when humans are drinking on Saturn. It's basically a description as to how everybody is happy, brilliance of the frothy cups, like how everybody is happy holding those beer jars in their hands and intoxicating their senses with kaleidoscopic hues. Kaleidoscopic hues basically like it's like that starry feeling of the space, right? You know, that feeling when you are at peace. So yeah, that's that.
Oh. So when you come back, the nature will rejuvenate on the planet Earth, perfuming the spaces with fragrance of congenial life. So the life will be. So are you trying to say that the life will be better when you come back to Earth?
Yes, that's what I'm actually proposing. So I'm proposing that you're sad on Earth. Plus, meanwhile, you're making the Earth devoid of its resources, and you're giving substantial harm to the Earth. I'm not proposing you to relocate to some other planet because your problems at the end are going to be same. I'm not getting job, gender discrimination, corruption, poverty. They're not gonna disappear. Instead, I'm proposing go to Saturn, drink, and meanwhile, on your long journey of going and coming back to Earth, meanwhile, the Earth is going to heal itself. And then while you come back, you can then start living a happy life. So it's like a mutual benefit for both of you.
But you didn't talk about how Earth is actually facing problems with you being on Earth without, like, how...
Oh, actually, I talk about it in this paragraph.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so like the first line, on bidding adieu to the naysayers and the broken souls, like, it's like, so basically, on bidding adieu, on saying a goodbye. So when these like naysayers and broken souls, I'm talking about those sad people who are not happy on Earth, right? So when Earth says goodbye to these broken souls, while they are on their journey to Saturn, the Earth would gradually recover of its malady. So like the Earth would gradually recover of its damage that these naysayers and broken souls have given to it.
But I don't see the specific details how humans have caused like if you, I mean, I think you had the freedom to talk about anything in the essay, but do you think for students who are like trying to build up the story, do they need to give specific details on how humans were actually doing something bad on Earth before going to Saturn? Like, do you think that specific background is needed?
Well, I think depends on on which direction you are taking your essay at. I wanted to add that thing in my essay, and it was actually part of the original draft. But then it was going over the word limit, right? And that was probably the only thing where I was able to cut it down. Like, I understand that it was an important part of the essay, but for me, each and everything was an important part of the essay. And in my opinion, just exploring that part as to how humans are causing damage to Earth was not really important, because in general we know that we are providing damage to the Earth, right? So that is the reason why I sort of went away with that small paragraph of details providing the information you're asking for. I actually deleted it so as to fit my essay in the required word count.
Mind-blowing. But still, what an essay. It shows your skills in connecting philosophical question with reality, and also talking about freedom to go to different planets, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so like it ends like on a very peaceful note, and like it actually like brings a smile. Like I made this essay, like I made like a lot of people read it, and like towards the end, like let's read it. Till then, Mother Earth would restore its powers and heal the souls of the wounds inflicted by the thirst for materialism, and open the minds of those who see to the world that lies beyond human greed, to help us realize what man has made of man. So it ends on a very positive and a good note. It ends on a note that expects good things to happen in future. So it actually just brings a smile on the reader. Like, no, it's like I'm not making a general statement that everybody is gonna smile after reading this line, but in general, people smiled. So I think for me it was a good ending. So yeah, I just like focus. As I said, I focus on the reader more than as a writer while I was writing this essay. And one thing I'd really like to mention, this essay uses a lot of fancy words, right? But as I think people might know that fancy words are not really important in college essays, and sometimes they don't actually end up working. Because this essay, as Harnoor said, it does not look like it is being written by a high schooler, right? But because of my command and like I had like scores to prove my English proficiency, I just went with it, and it actually worked, as I'm saying it again and again. But you need not write a very high-sounding essay. You just have to be a good storyteller, not a good writer.
Well, that makes sense. So now, next most important essay when you apply to UBC Vancouver or any of the top schools like Shorya applied, the next questions are why me, why Shorya, why Harnoor, and the next question is why Duke or why UBC Vancouver. We'll be going through these two essays. So if you have to break it down, this is an essay of why you, why Shorya, like who should be accepted to Duke. So if you have to break it down, what are you trying to prove and what are the qualities you're trying to show in this essay?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so as you asked, like what was one major I showed to the colleges while I was applying. So this essay talks about psychology and my passion for psychology, and why psychology, like how do I understand it as a discipline. So in this essay, I talk about how I really love the sky, and then I sort of connected the sky to colors, the colors to psychology, and then colors as to how we have different festivals in India that are related to colors, Diwali and Holi. I sort of talk about it, and then in the end I say that, you know, to sort of draw a mutuality between your culture and choice of profession is a truly rare attribute, and I am happy that I managed to do that. To sum it all up, I come from the land of rainbows, I come from the land of colors, and I'm out to send rainbows out into the world, and I'm like ready to, you know, sort of again like this line, and I'm out to send rainbows out into the world. I am sort of saying that I am ready to embark onto my future, and I'm also saying that psychology, as I said, that this essay relates psychology to color, and I'm also saying that I am ready to make full use of color in psychology, or in a nutshell, I'm saying that I know psychology and I'm really passionate about it. So this line is kind of like a play on words.
Brilliant. That's a wonderful connection, and it's a very simple story. Everyone can connect with Holi, Diwali, colors, rainbow.
Yeah, it's like a very minimalistic essay. So like we saw my UChicago essay like a bit like, you know, just moments before. When I compare this essay to that essay, it's like very minimalist and like really, really simple.
Absolutely. And let's move on with why Duke or why that university essay.
Yeah. So this is my why Duke essay.
Now let's break this essay down. So what are the qualities at Duke related to psychology you wanted to prove in this essay, and how you connected your passion with Duke? So if you can,
yes,
those bullet points.
Definitely. So I personally think that writing a why for us, or like a why Duke, or like a why UChicago, or like why XYZ college essay is like one of the toughest essays for me, because as you all might have understood or like, you know, sort of goshed by now, that I'm a creative writer. Like I sort of like really I like filling a piece of write up with like those creative words. But these why us essays did not really allow me to do that, because all these Y essays are really very short. And as you can see right now, this was like Y Duke essay was like a 200-word essay, and I'm still up the word count. So that means like I omitted a few sentences from the final essay I submitted to Duke, but it was more or less the same one, like just some deletion of a few not really important lines. So as you see, like I open the essay by saying that how, like, I love many things, but learning about people's reaction and behaviors lead the list. So again, connected to psychology and how I like the functioning of the human brain and behavior. Then I sort of link to Duke mock trial. Here I say that I want to apply my knowledge of psychology to deliver appropriate justice, because there are like nowadays we are starting to have psychologists in trials as well, so that they can gauge what's a truth and what's a lie. But in my final essay, I also connect the Duke mock trial to my passion for public speaking and debating, which is not here. So I connect the Duke mock trial to A, how I would use psychology to apply appropriate justice. B, my passion for public speaking and debating, which I remember was in the final essay, but is not here because I further made edits to this. All of this, by the way, is from the Duke website. So I think research is a very important part when you write a why us college essay. Then I say I want to, so Duke has this very interesting project, which is called Listen First Project. And then again, I connect it to psychology. As I say, because like as psychologists or as counselors, you have to listen to the problems of your client, right? So I connect the Listen First project as to how it is something that is not really related to psychology at all, but I want to use this project to, not hinder, but like develop my skills further into my profession of choice. I then talk about TEDx Duke, which again, I tell, so TEDx Duke, again, like in my final essay, I talk about my passion for debating and speaking here as well, as to how I would hone that, along with as to how I want to tell the audience about experiments that have happened in social psychology, especially the Pygmalion in the classroom experiment. It's like a psychological experiment, which I learned while I was studying for my AP psychology exam. So that was that. And then again, like as I told you that one of my extracurriculars were like it was like writing a book, right? And I also was a content writer at some organizations. So I also say that I would also love writing articles for the Chronicle, which is like the official newspaper or the magazine for Duke. So I basically like connect my entire application as to how I would like to pursue my hobbies and like my interest at Duke, while giving proper evidence for the same, like proper, like I'm not just saying that, oh, I would love to go to Duke mock trial. I'm like explaining it further as to how I would make use of Duke mock trial. And then at the end, I talked about a professor at Duke whose work I really like, and I would really like to connect with her. And yeah, that was pretty much about my Duke essay. Just it was a well-researched essay. That's pretty much about it.
Got it. And for these essays, even though you say that it's difficult for you to write because you cannot put in much creative thoughts into it, but for other students, I think this is one of the most easiest essay to write because...
Exactly. Like I remember talking to my friends and I'm like, bro, I struggle with writing the why essays. Like, why? It's like so simple. But like, I really struggle with these essays because of my reasons.
Brilliant. But it still shows that you are able to put some creative thoughts into it. You are able to connect this with somewhat your imagination of psychology and connect all the pieces together to show your passion. And that's something you really aced it. Did you take any help from counselors writing these essays or no?
No, not at all. I did have a counselor, but I really don't think that I needed a counselor. But yeah, I regret it again. One of the decisions I made. I did have a counselor to help choose colleges, fill applications and everything. But no, these essays are first written. All the edits were made by me and not some other counselor or some other editor sitting in some part of the world. Not at all. These are written completely by me.
Brilliant. Now, concluding this video with the final piece of advice you would like to share with all the students.
My final piece of advice is, I think you all probably know it by now, but colleges do not look for all-rounders. They just want you to be good at one thing. I was good at writing. I was good at public speaking and debating. That was pretty much about it. Like, literally, that was pretty much about it. Like, I've like seen students stressing, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this quiz, that competition. And like, just find your passion, go with that passion, and things will actually end up in your favor towards the end. And just like focus, keep your grades up, have good test scores and everything. I think it'll be good.
Amazing. And in terms of financial aid, many students get 100%, many students get 50%. So what do you think that got you only 50% in UBC as compared to 100% possibly?
Yeah. As I mentioned, that Canada was always my last resort, and UBC is one of those universities that if you want a full scholarship from UBC, you have to submit the scholarship application first, like the 100% scholarship that Hanu is talking about right now, which covers your housing, food, flight tickets, everything. UBC wants you to submit that particular application first before you submit your actual UBC admission application, right? Now, in my particular case, Canada was always my last resort. I still remember today, I submitted my UBC application on January 17, which was the last day that UBC was accepting applications for admissions to the class of 2026. I applied to UBC on the last day and still managed to pull a scholarship, which was not a full one, but still a decently good one. To answer your question, I missed the deadlines for the full scholarships. That's why I only got a partial one.
Got it. And in terms of other US schools, did you get scholarship into Northwestern or UChicago?
No.
Oh, they give finance, so you did not choose.
I did not apply for financial aid anywhere. Because I heard, I don't know if it's a myth or what, but I sort of had this idea in my mind. If I apply for financial aid, for instance, at Northwestern or at UChicago or at Duke, I personally never thought that I would get into UChicago, but whatever chances I thought I'll have half those chances if I applied for financial aid. So I did not apply for financial aid anywhere. I did not get any scholarship at the top 10s, but yes, I had a full ride from this university called Wesleyan University somewhere in the US. I don't remember. But again, for the reasons we discussed, I did not tend to that full ride at Wesleyan, but chose UBC at a partial scholarship.
Yeah, that definitely is a convincing answer, because Canada gives you much more opportunities in terms of opportunity, in terms of off-campus opportunities we discussed. And yes, I hope this answer turns out to be true by the end of your degree as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shorya, for sharing. And I hope this video helps out all the prospective students applying to Canada and USA.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was honestly great talking with you.
Yeah, pleasure as well.